staring into the abyss and not knowing what you're going to do. I think all good things come from that. I knew I needed to shake it up and throw myself into a scary place, and here I am.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. It was just the second episode of Deep in the Weeds back in 2020 when we first caught up with Jacqui Challinor. We've had her on the show a few times since, and every time there seems to be a huge shift in her life, and today it seems it's no different. Jacqui, how are you?
Hello. I'm great. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good too, and it's really good to catch up with you. It's been quite a while, and a lot's changed, and you've moved on from Nomad Group. Tell us about life at the moment. What are you up to?
Life is good. I feel free and content and wonderful for the first time in a really long time. It's a bloody great feeling. It's also petrifying, kind of staring into the abyss and not knowing what you're going to do. But I think all good things come from that. I knew I needed to shake it up and throw myself into a scary place. And here I am. And, it's been a few months and I'm only just sort of starting to feel really bloody good about it. I am doing some casual work just until I figure it out, and chatting to lots of people and seeing what's out there. And I did a charity event with the guys from Blake's Feast a few years back, and they're just very lovely people. And so I'm hanging out with them at the moment, just doing some work back on the pans. It hurts, I tell you what. It's been a while, but it's nice to just kind of just cook and, hang out with good people. So that's what I'm doing.
It's a really hard thing to do, but there's a lot to be said about pulling the rug out from under your feet and sort of, even though you might have been working on something that you've made, done incredible things with, like you did with the Nomad Group, stripping that all away and sort of starting again is quite exciting and daunting, but there's a lot to be said for it.
Yeah, it's not a decision I came to lightly, but I wasn't inspired anymore, and it wasn't the right place for me to be anymore. And I think I've always, since I stopped drinking, I stopped drinking and then I moved to Melbourne, and there were two really big kind of life changes, and I always knew, and I've known for the last few years, that this was the last one to rip the Band-Aid off. But when you've got something and you're comfortable and it ticks the boxes, it's hard to make a decision like that. But I knew it needed to happen, and so I knew I would land on my feet. And it's good, I think, to put yourself in an uncomfortable position in order to push yourself and be great. And that's what I really want to do. I don't want to just coast. I don't want to be comfortable. And more than anything, I really just want to be inspired and excited about what I do. And, life's too short not to seek that out. So here I am, seeking it.
It's incredible. Hats off to you. You've done a lot of traveling around the globe, chasing great food and things like that. Do you have any food stories that you can share with us today?
Do I ever? I just got back from Italy. I just spent 5 weeks in Italy, which was so good. The last time I was there, I was a stupid 22-year-old drunken backpacker, doing the things and, spending one night in Rome and one night in Venice and doing pub crawls and stupid stuff like that. So it was so nice to go back and just be. My wonderful fiance is Italian, so we went to visit his family. We were up north, and just hung out and ate, and it was brilliant. We went, I think my favourite place would have been Modena, for sure. The food, the city, I want to live there. Maybe that's what I'll do next. It was so good, and we stumbled across. We arrived late in the afternoon, and obviously everything was closed because the Italians know how to do it. And we sort of walked past this restaurant and pushed on the door just to try our luck, and it was locked. And we kept walking, and all of a sudden this lady came and opened the door, and we said, "Oh, we're really sorry, just looking for somewhere to eat. Is there anywhere around that you could recommend?" And she just said, "Come in, I'll cook for you." And I couldn't believe it. Like, she just opened the doors and let us in. Her name was Ada. The restaurant was called Hosteria La Frasca. And she said, "What do you want to eat?" And I was like, "Well, beggars can't be choosers. What do you want to cook for us?" And she cooked. She cooked us this beautiful plate of ravioli with ricotta and olive oil. And then I'm going to try and pronounce it correctly, but faraona. She described it as the fiance of a pheasant. I don't so, but it was just this roasted delicious bird with rosemary and leeks and potatoes, and she sat with us in between cooking and chatted. I could hardly understand a word she was saying, but I was practicing my Italian, and obviously Alberto and her had a really great chat. But it was just one of those experiences that you don't get here. It was just, restaurants don't open their doors once they shut the kitchen. She just loved it. She worked in the kitchen. She did the front of house. The restaurant was tiny. She was the most lovely, beautiful, hospitable woman. She's been doing it for decades. It was just one of those heartwarming, warm hug memories I'll carry with us forever. We went back before we left and we gave her a hug, and it was just such a really, really, really beautiful meal. Like, the food was exceptional, but it was just one of those experiences that is just so few and far between, and it just really special. So if you get to Modena, you need to eat there. And there was another place that really stood out in Trieste. It was called Antico Spazza Camino, and it was a little trattoria that was recommended by a friend. And as soon as we walked in, we knew it was going to be good. It was just it felt like an antique store when you walked in. It was just random bits of things everywhere. And they had a little jazz band going in the corner, and the place was tiny. We sat down, there's no menu. The waiter just kind of ran through everything verbally, and I listened to the words that I could understand. And it was one of the most exceptional meals I've ever had in my life. It was so good. We had this gnocchi that was just laden with garlic butter and prawns, a smoked and cured swordfish that was. I can still taste it. It's like I'm drooling thinking about it. It was so good, so much so that I made us go back before we flew back home so we could eat there again. It was just so good. So they're probably my two big favorites from my most recent overseas adventure.
Amazing. Is there a destination on the planet that you've been to where the food sort of really knocked your socks off that you could share with us that people might want to head off to?
Honestly, I think I want to say Italy at the moment, just because there's so much love behind what they do. It really kind of sparked a joy for me with cooking and food. It's just the love behind it, the way that they eat, the way that they look after each other, the way that they share a table, the ingredients that they use. Like, the first day I'd gotten off the flight, I got picked up from the airport and we got back home, and Alberto's mum, and little did I know that this was an everyday occurrence, but the table was set and there was cheese and there was bread and there was speck and there was wine that I didn't drink, obviously, but and then she made the most incredible ragu that I've ever had in my life, and that was every day. Like, the sitting down and cooking, and she would start cooking the night before for lunch the next day, and then a week later we went and did the same thing at his auntie's house, and all of her kids had come over on their lunch break to sit down and share a meal with their family. And I just thought, how special is this? How special is this culture around food and eating and preparing real food without any rubbish in it, with seasonal ingredients? And it just, you don't see that. We're always too rushed to cook real food and to sit down and eat. And it was really eye-opening to see it. And it's so basic and it's so natural, but it's just one of those things that over here we brush over and we rush past it, and we buy things that are pre-prepared, or we don't take the time to nourish ourselves and to look after ourselves like that. And it was really, it was a really beautiful thing for me to see. And, the food itself, we all know that, Italian cuisine is famous for a reason. It's just simple and it's good and it's nourishing, and it's just, there's no rubbish. These traditions and the cuisine has just been around forever. And the one thing that I guess I found particularly interesting was how much it varies from region to region. Like, you could drive an hour and it's so vastly different. And I just thought that was such an incredible thing to experience, because, Australia, it's all the same everywhere we go. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was incredible. But I also love, Singapore is also a great eating city. I always think about that, the hawker markets, and I think I was there for 48 hours, and I reckon I went back to Newtown like 4 times. So yeah, there's so many great places, but I just think, Italy at the moment, it just sparked some love for me in regards to food and eating and the culture around it that I haven't had for a really long time. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of nourishing yourselves, Christmas is a time where we definitely eat perhaps too much. What's Christmas like for you, and what are you up to this year?
Christmas is family. So heading up to Sydney to spend it with the crew. It's always too much food, which is never a bad thing. There's a few fights and there's a few laughs, and mum flipping out over what time we're sitting down to eat lunch, which, is part and parcel of the whole thing. Dad's on the barbecue. My auntie makes a mean curry. It's quite an eclectic mix. There's a bit of, some of the Maltese favourites, like the arabali, which is the stuffed white zucchini, which, mum slaves over every Christmas, but we can't let her get away with it. With not doing it, sorry. She also makes these incredible cauliflower fritters, which she's a star for, so that's a Christmas favourite. I'm stuffing the chickens this year. Dad's got a new little rotisserie going on, so he's the barbecue master. So we'll be doing those. I'll make the stuffing for those. And I've also started a new little tradition whereby I hollow out a panettone and stuff it with gelato, and so that's a new one. So I can't, yeah. So that it's become a little family favourite.
How do you do that successfully?
So you just chop the top off, like just the top, not too far down, and then I sort of run a serrated knife around the side and just sort of really gently pull out the inside. If you want to go that next step, you can soak that in a little bit of espresso. And then I just sort of tear that up a little bit, and then I layer gelato and then the torn up bits of the inside of the panettone throughout. My go-to flavours for the gelato would be pistachio and fior di latte. And then you just pop the lid back on, chuck it in the freezer, let it set, and then it's just the most glorious ice cream cake you'll ever lay your hands on.
Well, what's it like for you this year with Christmas? The hospitality industry is always just such full throttle at this time of year. Is it a bit different for you in that sense?
This year, no, because I'm working, so I'm in the full throes of Hospo madness. I'm pulling the 7 days this week before I go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I've been off work for a little while. It's only fair enough. I put my hand up for it. But it's always, I think it's weird because Christmas is always a time of, for non-hospo people, celebration. And I think for the hospo crew, it's the most exhausting time of the year and the most taxing time of the year because it's the most busy and you don't stop. So everyone's sort of gunning for that finish line. But, back in, the early days, especially when I was a drinker, I'd be a mess on Christmas Day because everyone would be working so hard to get through to that Christmas Eve point, and then everybody would go out and they drink, and so I was always asleep or hungover on Christmas Day, and it wasn't an enjoyable time. So now that it's not like that for me anymore, it's it's still tired, but I think Christmas is always that day where you just want to sit on the couch and not talk to anyone for hospo people. It's and everyone's like, surely you cook, and I'm like, no, I don't want to see any food unless I'm eating it on Christmas Day. Someone else's turn to cook. But yeah, it's a bit different, I guess, now that I've been an exec chef and working kind of sort of more brain work than the physical work these days. So it's a bit different these days, and it's, I do enjoy it a lot more, and it's, it's nice to have a clear head and spend good time with the family, especially because I live down in Melbourne now, and, it's always nice to get up to Sydney and spend time with everyone and see everyone.
I know you're just sort of seeing where life takes you at the moment, but do you have any plans for 2025?
No, I don't know yet. I really want to, I guess, explore all the possibilities and options. I want to make good decisions. I want to be excited by what I do again. I want to surround myself with great people that inspire me. I want to cook good food and I want to share that with people, and, whether that's in a restaurant or some other format is still to be decided. It's kind of, I've never really had the chance to take my time to figure out what my place in the food scene looks like. It will always be food. I love food. I love cooking. I love sharing what I create with people. I just haven't decided what that looks like yet. So it's an exciting year. It's time to shake it up.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. But as always, absolute pleasure to catch up with you, Jacqui. Have a cracking Christmas and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you. Back at you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.